for the money. Hey, hey, I did it all for the money. When the player had to eat, that one the damn thing funny. Hey, hey, I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all before. Rob people so dope. Gang banging, shooting pistols, running from the dance folks. And I was known for eating anything your ass folks. Soft, hard, green, brown, niggas even had.
Welcome to the Playing with the Church Money podcast. Today we're going to talk about a few cases that are going on, a couple nationwide cases and a couple of local cases, a local case, the Darion Bashir case. So we're going to talk about the Darion Bashir case. We're going to touch on the Amaud Aubrey case, and we are going to touch on the Kyle Rittenhouse case as well. So right now you have all three of these cases going on at the same time. So we're going to touch on the Darion Bashir case, just a few little updates. So they had some, the trial started, and you had one of the witnesses, somebody playing with the church money out here. So it was just real strange, and it kind of stood out to me. But one of the witnesses said, just to be honest, I've never seen this man before in my life. I've never seen him. I didn't see him out there that night. And this is one of the witnesses that they're saying was the reason he was arrested. One of the eyewitnesses that was there on the scene. His initial testimony, I guess, was taken into consideration for the arrest. That's what was being framed. That was the narrative being placed out there. The man gets on the stand and tells, honestly, I've never seen this man before in my life. So here you go, where you're starting to have details come out, but it's real funny that, so I'm not sure, we need to go look at some of the if he went downtown to do an interview, we need to see the video of that. Was he coerced? What's going on? Why did it took this long for him to get on the stand just to say that? And so why was he even brought up on the stand? So it's very interesting, and it kind of leads back to there's some abusive patterns that have gone on in our city, going back to the Marty Chavez administration with the Memphis mob. We can go back to that, where you had a group of African-American men framed as the Memphis mob, creating terror in our city, so on and so forth. It was around re-election time for Mayor Chavez. Come to find out, the actual guys that were on there was about 4 guys from Memphis. They had about 10 people on this newspaper. I got the newspaper somewhere put up, but they had these guys on the front of the newspaper, and it was about 4 of the guys from Memphis that were actually from Memphis, and 2 of them didn't get along with the other 2. It was something like that. The guys that they had up there from Memphis didn't even get along with each other. And then they had a buddy of mine who was from Chicago who just had got out here. They had another guy from the Bay Area, California, who went to prison for killing the alleged West Side murderer of the women they found on the West Side. So a lot of information to kind of take in, but these are the kind of things they do in our city, where they'll frame black men a certain way. So then it goes back to the question, was Darion Bashir framed for this? Was he targeted by the police because he had previous cases? Was he, it just seems like a pattern of abuse that these people do. So why would they even have a witness on their witness list if the witness was going to get up there and actually say he never saw him out there? It just doesn't sit well with me, and it just goes back to, like I said, this pattern of abuse that you can see in our city, from the Memphis mob to when you have 2 police officers en route to the Boyd shooting on the foothills. The homeless person that got shot at the foothills, when they were en route to that, you actually hear one of these guys on radio saying he was going to go shoot the guy in his private area. He said he was actually going to shoot the guy, not with lethal rounds, not with non-lethal rounds. He actually said he was going to go shoot the guy. Didn't even know what the situation was, and then he actually goes up there and kills the guy, and then he gets off at the trial. So it just goes to speak to the abuse. These people will defend tooth and nail some of the blatant abuses created by the police department. And when it comes out later on, people are act surprised. But this goes to that question: did they target Bashir because he had previous cases and he may have been out in the community not doing uh, what they believe he should be doing or whatever? Just like they targeted the guys from the Memphis mob, they needed somebody to put up on the newspaper to make it seem like he was being tough on crime, and he made the whole thing was made up. It was a PR stunt. So now with this witness going up on the stand and saying what he said, it makes me question that, and you should question it as well. Was this man framed for this murder, this Nob Hill shooting of the UNM baseball player? Why would they have the witness on the witness list if you were just going to get up there and say he never saw him? Was that witness coerced initially to make a statement? Was the statement different? That's why we need to ask these questions, and we need to do a deeper investigation on what's going on. Because we allow these things to go on. People don't pay attention to certain things, but when you've lived through some of these abuses and you've lived through some of the corruption, then you tend to pay attention to some of these type of things. So let's just be real about it. It's not like there hasn't been any. I mean, we had one of the highest murder rates in police departments for our city. So it's not far-fetched to say that these guys don't commit abuses. When you have the Mary Hawks case, when you have an expert come and testify saying the only way the trajectory of this bullet would have entered into Mary Hawk would have been if she was on her knees looking up at the person who shot her, meaning that she was begging or she was on her knees, like when they tell you, get down on your knees, hands behind your back, and then was executed. And then that guy ends up being still on the job. So when they talk about police reform and there's no need for police reform and you guys are just focusing too much on the police abuses, well, no, I think they need to focus on the police culture and the law enforcement culture. You know, if they frame this man and somebody's actually out there still committing these crimes, and then they wonder why our crime and murder rate is so high. And it goes into another question that was kind of brought up in a discussion I was having with somebody else. When I asked, you know, we're having some discussions, and the subject was brought up about the police being politicized and them not wanting to do their job because there is Democratic mayors and so on and so forth, and they believe that the majority of the police may be Republicans or conservative. You have a narrative that's placed out there by the police union president, and then you had this survey that was taken by, I guess, 400 and some police officers. But nonetheless, we need to have a discussion with these 421 police officers who took this survey. Let's have a sit down and discuss the indifference so we can have an understanding. Is it really that you just don't want to be disciplined for your behavior? That is disgusting alone. For your fellow police officers to say they have complaints about disciplinary actions, it's ridiculous. When you have the highest murder rate in police departments across the country, it's ridiculous. And like I said on my other previous one of my other podcast episodes, you're allowing your police union president to frame you as incompetent, is not being able to do your job without having to kill or shoot or beat somebody halfway to death. That's what your police union president is basically framing the narrative. And the people who want to defend these people, this is the narrative you're framing, because you're not the people that are subject to the abuse. You're not the kids that are being beat up. You're not the people that are getting shot. You're not the people who live in close proximity to lower income areas where it's more prone to crime. So you're not subject to this type of abuse and harassment. Man, that's just the honest fact and reality of it. You know, someone who lives in Tanawon, someone who lives in Rio Rancho and Fort Hills, they can say whatever the hell they want about crime, but you don't live in the 87108. You don't have to wake up with bums at your doorstep, camping out in your front yard. You don't have to deal with that. So you can say whatever you want about the crime and whatever you want about homeless issues. You're not directly affected by it. So when your politician runs his mouth, he is not directly affected by that. But these are the crime issues that go on in our city, and they want to make excuses for misconduct. So we need some answers on the Darion Bashir case. Why was this witness on the list and said that he never saw Darion Bashir ever in his life? But y'all used this man's testimony to arrest Darion Bashir. This was what was taken. Was this something that was presented to the grand jury? There's a lot of questions. And was it a frame job? It's turning out to look like a frame job. This is not looking good. So we'll touch bases on that. We'll try to get some Amaud Aubrey case started, and they had one witness, the police officer who arrived on the scene, off-duty police officer who was in the area, decided to show up because he was in his police cruiser doing the job, and it showed his body cam, the body cam footage that was released for the first time, very graphic images of Amaud Aubrey laying on the ground, bleeding. They rolled his body over, his eyes were wide open, deceased. The entire time you can see the people who shot him walking around the background, the back area. It was for it being a murder scene, a shooting scene. I've been at complaint calls where they've detained every single body. When they pulled up, it was about 10 black people. Everybody's on the ground, or everybody's handcuffed. No one is walking around a live crime scene like that, going in and out of their truck, so on and so forth. If the guy just wanted to pull out a gun and start shooting people, so it's always a double standard. You can always just point out and stuff, you know, when you start looking at it. And that was the main thing that stood out to me. I said, wow, they just letting this guy walk all throughout the crime scene. So I hope justice is served in that case. They murdered the man, hands down. They never, in none of the videos, did they ever confront him like, hey, you stop that, freeze, the police are coming for you, you need to wait. You know, they jumped out, they were chasing him down. So obviously the person was trying to flee, gonna try to defend themselves when you see somebody chasing you down, and that's what happened. He was killed down like a dog. Hopefully these cowards will be found guilty. And last but not least, we'll talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, you had here again, this is very similar. Actually, it's not. I was just about to say this is similar to the Greg Buchanan situation, but it's not, because Greg Buchanan was an adult who was out in the streets and killed a child. This is actually a child who wasn't even supposed to have a gun running through the streets, and he kills some people that are trying to stop him because they heard some gunshots. Somebody had ended up getting shot, so they were trying to apprehend him because he was the one running through the streets with a firearm. And then he shoots and kills somebody else, or the two people, whatever the case may be. He shouldn't have been out there with the gun, and he went out there like a vigilante and he killed some people. Clean cut. But because politics is what it is, these people who got killed will more than likely not receive the justice. You know, this guy was out on bond. This kid was out on bond, had a GoFundMe. They had pictures of this kid out in a bar drinking with adults. So why isn't there those people in jail for, you know, underage contributing to, you know, all is so much. Why isn't, they know who this kid is, the bar people, but they let them, why isn't they liquor license revoked? These are the type of things that happen when you have so much stuff going on in society that people will just pacify whatever you try, people will just literally give people a pass for this stuff. People will give people a pass. So he's getting a pass when you have all these, I see it all the time online. I see it on TV where you have a bunch of teenage kids in the black community that kill somebody and they going to jail for life. Turn on First 48. So I don't understand how this kid was able to get out, have all, he's like a cult, has like a cult following. That's the one thing that's, you're not going to find people in the black community who have a cult following for murderers. And if they do, it's probably because they listening to some rap music. And it's only so many of them. And then that's the ignorance we got to deal with. So here you go. It's a quick comparison. Not to get off topic, but the ignorance that we have where we put these people on pedestals who commit violence in our community. And it goes the same in their community. It's more vicious in their community because look at this. Here you have a kid being framed as the poster boy for gun rights, even though he killed 2 people and he broke a crime because he wasn't even supposed to have a gun in the first place. But he can do all that and kill 2 people and be framed as the poster boy for crime. And then you have somebody, Darion Mills, who gets shot and then sees the person who shoots him, uses his gun to defend himself because he feels threatened at that point, kills the guy, he gets arrested, and he's not the poster boy for gun rights. So just pointing out a few things. We'll kind of keep update on these trials, and I'm trying to keep a day-to-day update on the Darion Bashir case. Sorry I haven't uploaded any videos lately. Been studying for this insurance exam, and the kids got games and volleyball, basketball season starting and ending. So your man busy doing the grown man father thing, but it is what it is, man. We'll keep y'all posted up on Darion Bashir case updates and the other cases that are going on. Man, y'all stop playing with the church money. Stay blessed.
Hey, I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all for the money. When a player had to eat, that one a damn thing funny. Hey, I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all before. Rob people, sold dope, gang banging, shooting pistols, running from the dance folks. And I was known for getting anything you asked for.